where music, connection, and inspiration meet.
I'm DJ Hamouris.
And I'm Erin Mae Lewis.
Together, we're your hosts for these beautiful conversations that celebrate the vibrant women of the dulcimer community.
Since June of 2022, Dulcimoon Talks have brought you into the lives and stories of extraordinary women, leaders, teachers, producers, and artists who are shaping and sharing the art of the dulcimer in unique ways.
Our guests come from all walks of life. Many balance their passion for dulcimers with careers far outside the music world. Yet they all share one thing, a deep love for the dulcimer and the joy it brings to teaching, practicing, performing, and creating.
Each episode is an intimate journey exploring personal musical paths, sources of inspiration, and the beautiful ways dulcimers weave into our lives. Think of it as the kind of meaningful conversation you'd have while sharing a meal at a festival. A mix of insight, laughter, and heartfelt connection.
Whether you're a long-time dulcimer enthusiast or just curious about this amazing world, Dulcimoon Talks are here to inspire, inform, and delight.
We release new talks twice monthly and are thrilled to have you on this journey with us. Make sure to subscribe and join the growing community as we honor the magic of dulcimers and the people who make them sing.
Dulcimoon Talks, sharing stories,
celebrating connections,
keeping the music alive.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Dulcimoon Talk number 64. Today, I am joined by Dana Gruber. Hi, Dana.
Hello.
Thank you for being here with us. Remind me where you're at in the world.
I live I live in the Greater Cincinnati, Ohio area. So I'm in Southwest Ohio, down in the little corner of Ohio, and I live in a town called Milford, but it's just right outside of Cincinnati.
Nice. There's a pretty good dulcimer community up in Ohio, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A lot of clubs and a lot of activities. So that's it's been a lot of fun. Been a lot of fun.
That's great. I remember the first time I visited Ohio, and I distinctly remember driving north to get there and then feeling like I had descended into the South culturally. And I was like, what is this? I finally asked some questions, and I learned that a lot of the coal miners moved to Ohio for the auto manufacturing, and the culture of Ohio is very much Appalachian culturally.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, a lot of influence.
yeah, so that one surprised me. The geography on the map and the culture of the community was not what I expected. So, well, that's so great. I have run into you a few times over the years at different festivals, and recently we've connected a little bit more on Chromatic Mountain Dulcimer because you recently put out a book for Chromatic Mountain Dulcimer, which I am so excited about, of Tin Pan Alley tunes, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll have another one coming out in the next couple of months that's classical music. So classical
Yay!
music themes. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Fantastic. So now there's like a method book, a chord book, and some repertoire books for Chromatic Mountain Dulcimer. We're making some progress
Yay!
on having some written instructional materials for the instrument. So that's very cool. Well, that's some recent projects. Let's back up. How did you get started in music and find dulcimers and get to this point?
Let's see. As far as music's concerned, I started taking piano lessons at a young age, probably I think 7 or 8, and trained classically for about 6 years, and then did a lot on my own through high school and that kind of thing, and then took some lessons from a jazz blues player, and then for some reason when I got pregnant in my late 20s, it was a lot harder to fit the piano into everything. So I kind of set the piano aside for a number of years after that. But as far as the dulcimer's concerned, part of that was my husband. He had heard the dulcimer on a lot of recordings, but didn't exactly know what it was. And in our search to find it, we saw a listing in the paper that the Appalachian Festival, which was an annual event in Cincinnati, was going to be having a dulcimer club performing. And so we thought, well, this will be perfect. We'll go see what it's all about. But we had trouble finding the location of the stage. When we got there, the concert was over, but there were two people sitting under a tree playing. And it turned out that the one was the president of the Dulcimer Club, and the other one had been a past president. And I was just really taken with their playing. So they invited us. It was the Hills of Kentucky Dulcimers, which is a big dulcimer club in northern Kentucky, which is just right across the river from Cincinnati. And it just took one meeting and one cardboard dulcimer to get me smitten. And so within a couple weeks, I had bought one. But probably one of the most defining moments was when we came home from the meeting, and I was playing around with it, and they had given me some music. I had never played a stringed instrument or anything fretted or anything like that. So this was all new to me. But one of the songs that they had in their book was Tennessee Waltz, and I started playing it. And my husband went in and got his guitar, which he had played for many years, and he started accompanying me. And I don't know, something happened. We both just really liked the sound of it, and that was the beginning of it all. And for, the last 27 years, we were a duo and did almost everything together as far as music was concerned, although I found I really enjoyed teaching and was given a lot of opportunities to teach and to kind of spread my wings and begin arranging and that kind of thing. From piano, I did play music by ear. So with the dulcimer, that came kind of, I don't want to say easy, but it was easier. And just went on from there. And my husband and I were really blessed to have had that to share, because it just became our social life, everything. That's what we did, was play music. So that was a lot of fun. More recently, I think it was odd with COVID. I think a lot of things slowed down for a lot of people musically with COVID. And it just, for a lot of reasons, just a lot of it as far as performing and that kind of thing slowed down quite a bit. But I still continue to do private lessons, and I have a couple festivals coming up. So I'm doing it on my own now, but I think it's, I'm just testing the waters.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what brought me where I am today. And as I said, I have another book coming out. I'm working with Richard Ashe through Folkcraft.
Yes, yeah.
And he has bought the rights to all of my books, which is wonderful because he takes care of everything. And I'm going to hopefully have this one ready to go in a couple months. So, and it's classical music, which it's kind of themes for classical music, more the parts of the classical music that you might recognize. It's not the full pieces.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun. We just we need to help make people understand that the chromatic is really not that hard. I think they're overwhelmed by all the frets and don't feel like it's something they can master, and it's really not that big of a leap if you just give it a try. I think I don't know. I know you work with that too.
I do. I always say when I got my chromatic dulcimer, because I was so excited because I would have all the right notes to every song, and then pretty soon I've discovered I had all the wrong notes to every song. There is a learning curve of how to
Absolutely.
avoid the frets. They don't have the notes you're looking for.
Yes. There is that. It still happens, but But I just
When did
I just like the freedom to be able to.
when did you get into chromatic? How did that how did that
I
evolve?
was trying to remember, but I've had one probably for about 10 years. I got one, my first one was from McSpadden,
Hmm.
and I'm thinking with the way time goes by, maybe even more than that. It could have
Yeah.
even been 12 years ago. But and I played it. I played it a lot, but then I realized, and I did not realize it for a long time, that you can buy instruments with shorter fret length, fretboard, string length. And
Uh-huh.
so now I went from like whatever the McSpadden is, I think it's 28 and a half or something like that, down to a 25. And this one is through Folkcraft, but a lot of makers do that now, offer them in
Hmm.
different sizes.
Yeah, I've
But
been kind
that
of
has made it.
advocating for 25 as a standard for chromatic. It's just really like it's even harder to reach the stretchy chords on the chromatic because you kind of can't fudge as much.
Can't budge. I know
Yeah.
it's true. Where you used to be able to hit the middle of the fret, all of a sudden it's a wrong note.
Yeah, yeah, that middle of the fret is real small when you put all the
That's
small spaces
true.
in there.
That's true. It's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. The other thing I've done with chromatic is I know you have a wonderful chord book of all the chords, but I've developed it's kind of, I guess I'd call it a system, but it takes the chord shapes
Yeah.
and shows how the chord shape is altered to get the different type of chords, so you can use it for any chord. And that is part of one of the books I have, but I'm want to start promoting this because I really think it helps a whole lot, especially if you're a person interested in taking music and making your own transition onto your dulcimer, and you see something called a G sharp diminished, if there is such a thing, or something like that, rather than be frightened by it, you just need to look and see what chord shape would work for that. And I think it's or they can just use your book and not have to figure it out on their own. But I think it's one thing I think it's been real helpful. So, but I love teaching chromatic. It's just so fun to watch people kind of have that moment of this isn't so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of like the work of the dulcimer community for the last 20 years is convincing people that you can play anything on a dulcimer.
Mhm, mhm.
Right? And so you see
Yes.
people like Butch Ross and Bing Futch and Steve Yulberg doing some of the like rock and roll standards and putting that out there. And like you can do blues and you can do jazz and you can do classical and you can do and and I think the chromatic dulcimer just even further sort of expands that concept of like really truly any piece of music you can imagine, you can figure out how to play it on a mountain
Yeah,
dulcimer, even with only three strings.
that's right. That's right. It is kind of it is amazing. I know. I remember when Hank and I would arrange songs. If there was like a B flat in a song, the way we'd get around it is he would actually be playing it on the guitar, but we tried to camouflage it so you didn't realize that that sound was coming. Because just to explain, the B flat is normally not on the regular dulcimer.
Right.
And people would say, "How do you play a B flat on that dulcimer?" And it was like, "Oh, it's our little secret." It was
Uh-huh.
actually coming from the other instrument. But with then getting a chromatic, it was nice to be able to have all those notes and
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, you know. So it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
What's the arranging process like for you? If you've got like a piece of music that you're starting from no mountain dulcimer resources for it whatsoever to a complete arrangement, what's that process like?
Well, I usually will start with I'll go on something like Ultimate Guitar or one of those sites just to find out what the chords are. Or I'll often go to one of the sheet music sites, and sometimes I'll buy the sheet music if it's something that's, a little bit harder. But oftentimes the first page of the sheet music tells me a lot of what I want to know.
Uh-huh.
Sound familiar? And I go from that to the dulcimer, trying to just kind of figure out the tune and what key I want to do it in.
Yeah.
And then I use I call it table edit. I know some people call it table edit, but I do everything on table edit and just start, laying it out. And then after I play through it, then I try to figure out how I can use the middle and the bass strings more, so I'm not going all the way up and down the fretboard. So I'm able to kind of weave in and out to sort of keep it a little more controlled. And that's the process. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes a while. It's never a quick process, but I love doing it. I love arranging for the dulcimer.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I know
Yeah,
Hank
I
and
find
Hank.
often like getting the initial melody doesn't take me very long because I can either by ear or looking at a piece of piano music, I have that same like note reading background. So I can look at that and I can be like, okay, here's a melody. And I can do that pretty quick. But then to get it to where it's like, and now I like the way it sounds.
Exactly,
It can be a
exactly.
real long process.
It really can. It really can. And thank goodness for the internet and being able to, and YouTube and just being able to hear how other people do it, other strums. I mean, of course, I was really spoiled having a guitar player right here at home, because he would figure out a lot of the rhythms and stuff like that. But um, he'd figure out his part. But I just really enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's it we he and I always played all different kinds of music. We played all different jazz and popular and whatever. And it was always a lot of fun. And if we perform, kind of surprising people with what they were going to hear, that it wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily what they're expecting.
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
always
just
had fun with that.
old
Yeah.
time tunes. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, what about practicing together? What was that like? I know, like my sister and I performed together for quite a few years, and we learned very differently. So we would have to like sort of learn separately and then come together to practice and like I know a lot of people, whether they're playing with their partner or a friend or just like starting that process of playing with other people, sometimes that getting together can be a challenge. So,
yeah, I hate to say it, but that it often ended, not often, but would often, there's the word often again, so I guess it was often. Um, but the funny thing is, we almost always played together. Very rarely did either one of us play by ourselves. I would take the time, like you were talking about, laying out the melody
mhm.
for me, so I kind of knew where I was going. But um, usually, when one or the other, because we'd both come up with ideas for songs, um, it was usually if he would start strumming the chords, then I would just start playing the melody as best I could remember it and play by ear,
Mhm.
or vice versa. But it was almost we really did work really well together. It's just sometimes that little bit of frustration and being married. But for the most part, we did real well together as far as and it was always so much fun, to come up with a whole new song. I would always get so excited that we have another song. So that
Yeah.
was it was great. It was a lot of fun. A lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So along the way, who are the musicians who sort of nurtured, influenced, inspired, encouraged you?
Oh my goodness. There have been so many. And I guess early on it was people within this Dulcimer club who were very supportive, and especially I think when we all kind of realized that Hank and I were sort of on to something, playing together and performing together, they were just very, very supportive at different club performances. They would ask us if just the two of us wanted to play something, and to help us kind of get used to an audience. But as far as people maybe more known in the Dulcimer community, I'd probably have to say in the early beginning, Maureen Sellers. I mean, she isn't as active now in the Dulcimer community, but back in the late 90s, early 2000s when we were getting started. It's just amazing how people will just give you that little opportunity, to play somewhere or something like that. And then, oh my gosh, there have just been, I know the Cincinnati Dulcimer Society is the other Dulcimer Society in Cincinnati, and they had two festivals a year where they would bring in the big names of the first people that go by their first name that a lot of people know, and they Fran Booth was the one who did that, and they invited me to perform and do workshops for them, which was huge. And let's see, Sherry Wolf is another one who used to be part of Sweetwater, and now of course she has been part of that for a while, but she's was part of the Dayton Club, Dayton, Ohio Club, and then she does a festival every year called Buckeye Dulcimer Festival, and she also gave me the opportunity, and I've actually been invited to do that again in April of next year, so I'm excited about that. Um, Gosh, another huge person, huge influence was Nancy Barker Johnson with Kentucky Music Week.
Yeah.
Um, Hank and I had goals of things that we wanted to accomplish. We did well setting goals and trying to achieve them. And one of my goals was always to be asked to teach at Kentucky Music Week. And I just, never dreamed I'd get there. And Nancy was wonderful. I mean, she just understood that maybe because of the chromatic and the arranging and things that I did, that maybe I wasn't necessarily a big name, but I had something to offer, different to offer. And she was wonderful and so supportive. I think we did Kentucky Music Week for 6 years in a row. It was just great. Um, Lorinda Jones is another one who, hired us. And we were part of their clubs. I'm trying to think. It was the 40th anniversary that it played on PBS. The concert
Wow.
did, so we actually got a little play on PBS.
That's cool.
And then, not to embarrass you, but Erin, you've always been very supportive, and I really just so appreciate it. And I love the focus of taking a closer look at women in the Dulcimer community. And because so many of the more popular names and the names in festivals and workshops are often, the guys who deserve. I mean, they've been wonderful and wonderful leaders, but there's so many women out there that are now getting the attention, and you and DJ are doing a lot to help bring that to the forefront, and that is just it's just wonderful. It's making letting people be aware of what is out there because they don't necessarily know that.
Right. I mean, just in you naming names, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember Maureen Sellers. Oh, Sherry Wolf, that's right. Like, just names of people that sometimes fly under the radar, but have been really important parts of the Dulcimer community, and pulling out the stories and making sure that we're sharing about all of the kind of workers that are sometimes behind the scenes that are really
Oh, absolutely.
making things
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely. Of course, there's been some early on. I think several of the people that just gave us an opportunity, or they might not even be people that people remember. But another really big influence for me was Steve Seaford.
Hmm.
When I first joined the Dulcimer Club, Steve's mom, because Steve grew up in northern Kentucky, and he joined the Cincinnati Club as a teenager, and of course blew everybody away. But his mom was a member of our club, and Steve then became a name member as well. And he's always been a good friend and very supportive. And kudos to him too. No matter how big his name got or whatever, I could still even just call him on the phone and say, hi, this is Dana, and it's like, yeah, I remembered me. But he was huge, and so I do have to give some kudos to him as well. He's just always been a great friend, but a lot of people along the way. And, the great thing about the Dulcimer community is that people are willing to do that. They're willing to share and give you a chance and encourage new people. And that's just one thing. It's just always been so wonderful about playing this instrument, are the people, because they're you're never afraid to leave an instrument sitting somewhere. When you come back, it's going to be there, and it's just and being welcomed into a jam when you're not, you're early on and you don't really know, and people just invite you in. It's just great. It's
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
really a lot of fun. I'm so glad this came into, my life. It was great. It was great.
That little cardboard dulcimer, that was it.
That's all it took. That's
Yeah.
all it took. I still can't believe it. But yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to give it back. I borrowed it from somebody and gave it back. But but I always remember that,
Yeah.
that sometimes you just need to do the same thing, and just loan somebody a dulcimer
Right.
to
The
try it out
dulcimer
for a
clubs
while.
that have like these are the instruments that somebody can take and borrow. That's a great way of nurturing the next set of players for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you play much outside of the dulcimer community, like coffee houses and like that kind of thing in your area?
Yeah, we did. We had there was a little restaurant in a town near here that would have us play at late morning, going into like late breakfast, early lunch, and play through the lunch. It was so fun because you can just sit there and play, and you're not so worried about people be sitting there in an audience glaring at you, but you just see people drinking their coffee and chatting. Another one of our really fun gigs was we played for a garden walk in the area, and that was the same type of thing. You're sitting there in this beautiful garden playing whatever you want, and people walking through. But we did a fair amount. We would do some weddings, which are not my favorite thing to do, but we would do the stories about the weddings. There's nothing like a mother of the bride. But we did weddings, we did rehearsal dinners, we like you said, played in restaurants. Coffee houses are always a lot of fun because once they start running that grinder, boy, nobody can hear you. So that's but yeah, we had just a lot of great experiences. It was great because the music doesn't lend itself, because we don't sing. We didn't sing, and people expected us to sing, but it's kind of more quiet background music than if you're in a restaurant trying to play over the din of glasses and silverware and all that. But
Yeah.
it kind of has to be the right thing. But
Right.
uh,
Yeah, I've played a half a dozen bar gigs in my life and I just am okay with not doing that. Like, that's not a great place. It's not super conducive to mountain dulcimers. I'm like,
No, no
I'll
matter
leave that
how
to
loud you
someone
turn it
else.
up. Absolutely. It's funny, but it was fun. A lot of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah. Um, I love the ways that music can just like find outlets, you know, it's like one outlet can be the sort of community of people who also play the same instrument, but then there's also just the like what's in your community, what's in your town that you can get involved with and go out and play. I have one of my students right now who said, I'm not really ready to like book gigs, but I take my dulcimer to the park once a week and I just sit at the park and play. And I'm like, you know, that's a great way of just like getting a little bit outside of your I'm playing in my own space comfort zone and to expose some people to the mountain dulcimer. Like some people will walk by when you're playing at the park, and so you're spreading the joy of that a little bit and building up the skills to be able to go and perform because the first few performances are scary.
They are. I don't know that they ever become not scary, but no, that's true. That initial playing in front of an audience it can be terrifying, but then it's so rewarding
Yeah.
when you did it, when you finally did it. Um, I know when well, I guess we've been playing a couple years. There was a local group in Cincinnati who'd been meeting for years. They were sort of left over from the Hootenanny folk music, group, but they were called the Queen City Balladeers. And they had something they called their coffee house that they did every week. And they had an open stage, that was awesome for people, to give their music a try.
Yeah.
And but they also would meet just just on a friendly basis at somebody's house and go around in a circle and everybody play, and that was great. It was so helpful for us because it was a small group of people, but they were people that would listen. They weren't talking or kind of ignoring you and letting you be background music. And there wasn't like they would give constructive criticism, but you'd kind of get some feedback from them on things. And we were the only, at the time, I was the only dulcimer. It was all, they used to laugh and say a bunch of white guys and guitars, which, it sounds a little like it's not politically correct, but that was the joke,
Uh-huh.
that's pretty
Uh-huh.
much a
The
lot of what it was.
demographic.
But I mean, there were women in it as well. But we all, we would just go around in a circle, and you got to hear, other people play. It was wonderful. But that was a big help. That really helped us tremendously, and it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so if somebody has started playing and they're like, I think I want to get into maybe writing some of my own arrangements or doing some performances, and they're standing on that edge of like, I don't know how to take that first step into it. What advice would you give to them?
Um, I really kind of think what a lot of people do, and I think sometimes helps, is that uh, nursing homes and retirement communities are wonderful places to just go share your music.
Mm,
The folks are so appreciative because, unfortunately, a lot of them are lonely or don't get out.
yeah.
And it's a great way to have, an audience that's very interested. And plus, it's a wonderful way to give of your time.
Mhm.
And that is always, to me, a good way. Another thing are the open stages at festivals,
Yeah.
because you're among other people that or similar to you or play the same instrument, but sometimes you'll connect with somebody else who'd say, I really like that song. Would you mind teaching it to me? Or, I play such and such interest in instrument. Could I play with you? And I think just off the top of my head, to me, those are the two things that would just really kind of help you just kind of dip your toe in the water. As far as working on arranging, that's if it's a student, we just start like you were talking about, just putting down the melody and then placing those letters of the chords over the top, figuring out what those notes are, where you find them, how you put them in, and then where you go from there. But yeah, that's so fun. It's just so fun to see somebody just start to blossom. I think that's what I really love about teaching, is that when the light bulb goes off. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really nice.
And to me, when you start to get into arranging is when you begin to sound like yourself. Like instead of sounding like someone else and doing that like imitation, you start to figure out which sounds do I like, which chord
Yeah.
shapes do I like, which finger
Yes.
positions feel comfortable for me. And that's really cool when you start to get a little bit past the copying phase into the phase of like, I get to make my own musical decisions about this, and that's
I think
exciting.
and I imagine you have this with your students as well, that you get to that point where you've taught them fingering and you've taught them strum patterns, and then all of a sudden you start to encourage them with the freedom of, well, if that doesn't work for you, what does? We'll try that fingering, maybe because I have real small hands, and so my fingering is always trying to figure out how I can do that.
How can I
But
reach?
yeah, but I think that it's so funny, the reaction. It's like, well, you told me never to do that. The funny thing is, I try to teach people not to play with their thumb in the beginning.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, because I'm a thumb player, and then I start reintroducing it, and they said, "We never play with your thumb," and it's like, "Well, yeah, you do. You just, I
Yeah.
just didn't want you using it as a noter up and down the fretboard the whole time." So,
Uh-huh.
but that's funny. Um, I'm sorry. I had a thought, but it's gone. It's
That's
gone
okay.
now.
Yeah, no worries.
Off it went.
So you said you're teaching at NGFDA Fall Festival, which is coming up in November, right?
Yes, I
Yeah.
am. I'm just doing 3 classes this year. I'm kind of slowly getting back into everything, and I thought I'd start with just 3. I think you could teach up to 10. And one year, I don't know how many you do, but one year I did 8 and about killed myself. So I'm just going to do 3, and one is chromatic, where I'm going to do a
Awesome.
ragtime
Oh, how
piece.
fun.
Yeah, it's a Scott Joplin tune called the Sunflower Slow Drag, which I had never heard before.
Fun.
And the slow drag was a dance in the ragtime area, and so that's what I'm going to be teaching. And then some things about capo, I think, is for beginners, and then because it falls in November, some holiday songs.
Sweet, sweet, awesome. And I think registration just opened for that. So you
Yes, it
can,
did.
yeah, folks
Yeah,
can check out. I think it's ngfda.com maybe is the website for that.
I think so.
We'll
Yes.
look it up and get it posted in the comment thread. And if folks want to reach out to you, Dana, maybe they want to take an arranging lesson or they want to get some feedback from you, how do they find you?
Well, the best way is through email, and the email is actually it's what the name that Hank and I used to go by. It's Sweet Funk, FUNK, music, and it's at AOL.com. My kids tease me all the time about still being on
Still
AOL.
in
But once
AOL.
you've got that as your identity, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to change. But it's sweet funk music. The other thing, if you just type in my name in Google and just put Dana Gruber Dulcimer, usually you can find the link.
Yeah.
I still have a website, although I haven't updated it. It's really out of date. And of course, I'm on Facebook. So
Okay. Yeah, and your books are on the Fullcraft website, right?
on Fullcraft, yes, they're all through Fullcraft. So
Fantastic.
great.
Yay. Well, I'm so excited that you're working on another chromatic book, and I hope we get to cross paths in person sometime soon. But until then, I love how we cross paths online like this. So,
Yeah, I do too, Erin. And
yeah.
thank you. Thanks so much to you and DJ. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Thank you.
Yay. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next
Bye, everybody. Bye
time.
bye.
Success.